Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of No Hold Time. We have another exciting guest, Gina Gibson. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Brian is here. Hey buddy, good to see you.
Too. Still in Vegas.
Still in Vegas, and we're excited to be here because it's given us the opportunity to meet new people like Gina and connect a little bit more closely with some of our partners and customers and have amazing conversations. So Gina, you are a business owner, you also are a philanthropist and a CX enthusiast. And I want to get to the CX and business stuff, but in the prep conversation, you talked about some of the work you do for Dress for Success Phoenix, which really struck a chord with both of us, girl dads who want to raise strong and successful ladies. And so I hope you could share a little bit about what you do for them and what the philanthropy does.
Absolutely, be happy to. Dress for Success is in 125 countries worldwide.
Whoa.
Yeah, served over 22 million women. And our chapter, we are the third largest in the world in Phoenix. We've been around since 2009, and we have served over 22,000 women.
That's awesome.
It's incredible. And we believe in, it's not just a dress, right? It's not just a suit. And that's where a lot of people think, oh, let me donate your clothes, which we love, right? But we are starting to work on the women from the inside out. So we have started a Educate Her program where just actually last Saturday we convocated 16 women. Of the women that go through our professional women's group and that kind of thing, 97% are they are the primary breadwinner for their family.
Wow.
Our job is to, what our mission is to really help women gain an equitable wage, right? And an even wage in today's society. From the graduation, one of our ladies wasn't able to make it because she got a job for $140,000 a year moving to Indiana,
That's awesome.
working from $15 an hour when she entered our program. It's life-changing, right? And we always say if you educate one woman, you're changing her entire family, right? You're changing that history. So
That's
it was,
awesome.
Saturday was wonderful, right?
That's
We got
amazing.
to see so many of the kids see their parents, and our speaker told the story of her children that were, I think, 18 and 20, watching mom go to school, decided that they would then go back to school and see the importance of an education.
Yeah.
And what was cool is our first graduation was in January. I think we had 8 women, and it was all in the nursing kind of healthcare. And this time it was all in tech. And I was just like, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Getting more women into tech and data analytics and everything else. So it was really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Have you guys heard? Yeah, I'm sure you have chapters where you're from.
I've heard definitely, and also sort of along the lines, I don't know if you've noticed this, but just this week, Mexico elected their very first ever woman president.
Yes, I saw that. Very exciting.
Which is exciting.
Very
My
exciting.
family's from Mexico, so it's really cool. I just saw the news there this morning, so it's exciting.
I love it. We are one of the first in Phoenix. They're one of the first to we have a mobile unit because, of course, transportation is tough, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
For some to get out. We have a mobile unit that goes out, and a lot of our teens, we have a teen initiative because these are single mothers, most of them, right, that are helping. And so they have boys, they have girls, and we've started a tailor-made as well for the men. So we've been able to kind of work through both, young teen initiative, the men, and then the professional women's group. And it's just fantastic. We also just got started this year with Bank On, because what we take for granted, right? You probably had a bank account since you were a kid.
Yep.
A lot of these women didn't have bank accounts. And so they're having to use those check cashing places, which are just highway
terrible
robbery,
for it.
right?
Yeah.
So we've worked and partnered with a few of the banks in Arizona, and they are now helping women without credit history get bank accounts so that they're actually getting
That's
that money
phenomenal.
into
That's
their accounts.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's simple things like that we take for granted, right? The conversations we have about getting a secondary education, we probably all had them around the dinner table with your parents. When you're working 2 jobs to be able to pay the rent for your kids, those conversations aren't happening. So yeah, it's a wonderful organization. And
Awesome.
I became the chair of our board in January of this year. So I'm very honored to be sitting in that position.
Yeah,
and being able to
congrats,
make a
and
difference.
Thanks for that doing that work. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I would be remiss to not ask because of your accent. You're from Canada, right?
I am, yes.
Where in Canada?
I grew up in Manitoba. Yeah, just over, for those of you that don't know, just across the border from North Dakota. So Fargo I get teased about quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they always say the more cocktails, the more the accent comes out. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That happens to me too. I get that. I get
My
that.
father was a farmer there, and philanthropy was a big thing for us as kids growing up. So happy to follow in.
That's wonderful, because there's
Mom and
not a
Dad's
lot of
footsteps.
that still. I mean, even we have to help promote that in our own communities. Is like start philanthropy early, because it is not a thing taught very much. It has to be encouraged from families and peers and people like yourself, and it's definitely a need in the space.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. You mentioned in our conversation before your time in Arizona. You have to play golf, right? Like that's what people do.
I love golf. Yes, it is part of why I live in Arizona.
Yeah. How often do you play?
Well,
Brian and I both really like to golf as well.
It used to be a lot more. I've been on the road so much in the last 3 months that I think I've only got 2 rounds in, but typically it's at least once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How about you guys?
Well, I'm starting to think a trend here. Everybody we've talked to so far in Vegas has played golf. We should have just played golf this week.
Yeah,
Just done some
we
more
didn't
golf.
plan
this.
Next time we'll play golf.
I try to play once or twice a month. Just I have young ones that have events on Saturdays, and I don't like to cut into that. So if I can get away for 9 holes after work one day, that's really when I get to. But it's something that I've started doing after having kids. Maybe it's just because it gives me some peace and quiet.
Time away.
I play 9 holes a week
Nice.
for a league that I've been a bunch of fun, degenerate friends of mine that I've been known for a long, long time. I'd love to play more, but I'm in the same boat. I've got softball all day with the kids on Saturday, and Sundays make sure I keep my wife happy and keep the house up type of a list type of things. And so it's 4 hours is tough to pull out sometimes, but we try to have some fun with it. Golf is such a great sport.
It is.
It's a self-discipline. It's a mental thing. It's a frustrating game. Good gracious.
I think it's part of what I love most about it is it's just against you, right? Like when you play with somebody and they're like, "Oh, that was a 4." You're like, "Okay, I don't know where you did math."
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'd love to ask a little bit about your customer experience world. So also mentioned, we forgot that you're an amazing co-author, a great book.
Thank you.
Revolutionizing Customer Experience. How did you get into the CX industry? What brought you to this? Why?
Yeah. Well, I don't think any of us ever plan on it, right? You just kind of fall into it. And I had moved to Calgary and I took a job. I love the arts, Philharmonic, theater, all that kind of stuff. And there was a telemarketing job to sell tickets for the arts. And then it was for charities. And so we did a lot of nonprofit fundraising. And I was on the phones for about 3 weeks. And then I was promoted to a supervisor. And then the lady that owned the company ended up getting pregnant, and she gifted me half of it to run it while she was away. And from that point on, it's like, you're hooked, right?
Yeah.
Like you're in. I worked for our telco up in Canada for a long time, or not a long time, a little bit. And then I got into project management because it was easier to help move the pieces in the right place to do the implementation than it was to sit on the phones. I mean, God bless them. I love it, but it wasn't, I enjoyed so much of the dynamics of what you could learn, like from the WFM to right sizing a contact center. And I mean, now, like everything is so changed, right? Like with AI and being the self-service and containment and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's how I fell into it.
So we know you from authoring. You've got a few businesses that also run in the CX space. Do you want to kind of talk a little bit about, we're in Vegas, the big event, lots of vendors, lots of people to talk to, networking. When we bring clients to these conversations, we always ask them, hey, what are you guys trying to get out of these shows? We have a different perspective here. I'd love to know what your focus is, where you kind of, visit, who you talk to. Are you learning about things? Like, what does an event like this mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, like you said, I have a couple of different companies. My first one is Think Forward, and we do mostly program and project management placement for different companies, and all in the IT space. And so, whether they're doing a new implementation, a CRM upgrade, whatever the case may be, they'll often not have the expertise in-house from a project management perspective. So we do a lot of subcontracting on that side of it. OpTech Solutions, my other company, we are technology matchmakers. So for those customers that are looking to do that technology overhaul or digital transformation or new software, we will help them write their RFPs and get all the requirements, and then we'll vet all the vendors for them and help them, make the right choice. So conferences like this are great for us because we get to see current customers, they introduce us to their friends within the industry, and usually it's business prospecting, right? And a lot of times we say we don't like to say it's our customers because we're all about relationships. And that's really how we found our niche in our last company. Was a lot of times customers complain that salespeople will come and go, right? And as soon as the sale is done, they never see them again. And we are about building relationships and helping them improve their customer experience. And that's a long-term investment.
Yeah, you said something in our our planning conversation that was something to the effect of we don't have customers, we have long-term relationships.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. I mean, it's something that companies really should think about when they look at developing their relationships with their customers, right? We don't have customers, we have long-term relationships.
Exactly.
I'm sure that is probably the goal of most companies, but don't treat it that way. So really like your perspective on how you value your partnerships.
Yeah. Well, and it's how you go deep and wide, right? And how you get the referrals. Like we've been in business for, I guess, 18 months with the second company now. And I've done no prospecting because it's all been referrals from
I'm jealous.
Other customers.
As a sales guy, I'm jealous.
I'm jealous. Somewhere.
That's great.
Yeah. And I think that's because, I've been in the industry for 25 years, a little over 25 years. My business partner at the time now is 30 years in. So there's a lot of relationships that have been built through that time. Yeah.
Are you seeing trends in like what people are buying from a technology perspective that have changed over the last couple of years? I know Gen AI is the fun topic of the world, but are people really buying that you're talking to yet, or is it more of a search and hope?
Yeah, it's an interesting. Everybody wants AI, and it's like, okay, and this might not be popular, but it's really just more data, right? And it's how you're going to slice and dice that data and how to consume it and what that looks like. So it's definitely on the top. The one thing I see is people really moving towards, they want more containment, right? So more self-service. So the IVAs, agent assist, that kind of thing, we see a lot of coming in. But, and then, you guys know the market, every 3 to 5 years, we don't like this platform, we want a new platform, right?
There's a lot of change.
And as soon as you see the C-level change, that usually brings a change in platform. Yeah. So we have, I think, 3 different full platform digital transformations going on right now. So yeah, that's probably the biggest one still. Okay. Yeah.
Love to ask about your book. How did the book come about? What was the motivation? Co-author with Chad Hendren. Talk about the book if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chad and I have been on and off working together for, I think, about 15 or 16 years. Different places we'd run into each other. And probably about five or 6 years ago, I went over to Amsterdam. He went first and got certified in this business simulation, which is really about safe, agile, teaching customers and companies how to bridge the gap between IT and business. As we all know, that's the biggest problem out there usually. And then I went in the January of 20, I think it was, and we got talking about, okay, how do we do this together, right? And so we started doing these simulations in different customer spaces, and we've both been consultants for companies as well as independent over the years, and we would always find that, everybody's saying they're focused on customer experience, but nobody's changing what they did. And so one of the concepts we talk about is WYMIWIG. What you measure is what you get.
Mhm.
And when we started looking at some of the canned reports from different platforms, guys, they haven't changed in 20 years. It's the same report.
I like
right?
the Avaya snapshot you had
Yeah.
from 2002 because I still see that report daily.
Yeah, it's insane. And so we had one customer that was really great and he was totally open to adopt and change. So we went in and we ran these business simulations. And what it is it's like you go in for a day, you get 8 to 10 of your people, and we take them from the C-level right down to the workers and mix them up, and they all take on different roles, right? And so we'll have a C-level be a developer, and they play the developer for the day. And then the developer gets to be the C-level, or whatever the case may be, right? And right away, what you see is they fall into their normal patterns of behavior. So there's little sidebar conversations over here, and then you go to say, okay, well, what did we get done, right? Like, let's take a look at the board and how's our workflow going? And oh, well, he never tells us anything that's going on, and all those dynamics come out. And one thing we loved was that customer said, okay, we don't communicate. We don't have work transparency, anything like that. So we did, I don't know, it was about a week and a half of sessions. We ran something like 50 of their staff through it.
Mm-hmm.
Their entire workflow changed. Their entire process of working changed. Their throughput changed. Their CSAT went up like 5 points in like a month and a half.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible. And so as we were talking one day, he's like, well, let's write a book about it, right? Like, let's talk about this. And so that's how the book kind of came about and why we wrote it.
Yeah.
I think one of the favorite things that we've ever done was a similar situation when we used to sell IVR. We would, when contact centers were centralized and everybody worked in the same building, I loved sitting next to agents, double jacking, doing similar situations. Not as much business simulation, I really like that. But I would love that because you would find out the real heart of it. Because just like you, I worked on the phones. I know how hard it is to be an agent. But listening to a customer who's asking us to come in and help them be an advisor and sitting on the front lines is so important and so critical to make it work.
When you guys do that, do you often find though too that there is the divide between technology wants to do this because maybe it's cost or whatever, but the business, like what's really the impact of the business? Do you ever see that?
Often.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you get to the point where everyone agrees that it's something you should look at, then it becomes, okay, I own the budget. It's going to be my decision.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that happens in almost all of my customers where the business really needs something and they see the ROI, and then IT is like, well, it's not budgeted for this year. We don't have the people to work on it. And then the business tries to come back and say, like, we understand, but it'll help us save money here. And so we can make the money back and more. That's definitely something we have to
And then
keep
you
in
get
mind.
our beautiful friends in vendor procurement to come talk to us. And they have their own agenda and things. It's just it's complex selling world out there.
It definitely is. And I think one of the things that we found with the simulation is it actually brought the two sides together and improved communication.
Yeah.
And mostly because we started using visible work, right? Whether it was Kanban boards online or whether it was for those that were in the office, they also had one on the conference wall. And every time they walked by it, they had to see, oh, I still haven't done that. I better, and so, or executives could walk by and say, okay, I can't throw more work at that because this is going to impact what I asked for 2 days ago, right?
Visualize your work.
Absolutely. And I think that was really one of the best parts on the C-level was he came in and he goes, oh, like you could literally see the light bulb go off. He's like, now I get it, right? Like I get how I'm impacting workflow, right? As far as every time you come in and say, no, this is urgent, you're screwing up your entire team for the sprint. So
Yeah, so one of the accounts that I spend a lot of time with. I think that's one of the reasons they are so successful is from leadership. And their CTO has told me, it's like, I need this person, or he's asked us, hey, I need you to do this. And I appreciate that means that this other thing might be delayed, and so I think that's why we partner well together. But then I see his organization work so well because from the top down, they appreciate that there's transparency in what people are doing. And in the companies that I see don't do it as well, I can see what the trickle down effect of the communication not being as good. So yeah, that was a good example. I like that.
I think too what you're saying is, or an example of maybe EX impacting CX, right? Like that is so evident, and especially on the phones, right? When your agents don't know where to go, or it isn't easy for them to give the information to the customer. Well, nobody wants to give bad customer experience, right? Like nobody wants to not help you, but then they feel bad, and then the customer's not happy because they didn't get what they wanted, right? So it's just it's a very trickle down and trickle up.
Yeah.
In my
and we start to see more and more companies now focusing on that EX platform so much more. We were just talking to someone the other day about Thrive. Have you ever heard of Thrive by chance? So not a partner, we barely know them honestly, but what I thought was really neat was we're doing more and more in self-service. So the calls that are getting to the agents are more complex, higher risk, higher challenging, or whatever, stressful.
Yeah.
And what Thrive does is when you sign up to be an agent, and I'm probably butchering this, sorry Thrive if you ever watch this.
We're going to invite them on to come
clear
it up.
They're great.
For us.
Andrea Huffington is a big investor in the company, so we'll call Andrea. You can call her, you know her. So they go about finding out what is an agent's like moment of zen or what makes them happy. So like a poem or a picture of a puppy or a kid photo or something. And the AI or the rules that they have, once that really hard call happens, they will grade it and say if you need a little break. If it's 30 seconds of looking at a puppy picture or 5 seconds of reading a thing or a little video, and they'll just break on the agent's screen and you can take your earphones off and watch whatever it is and then you're back to it. But it's that moment of zen, because it's, to your point, it's how do you help the employees be better? And because it is, I mean, when I was on the phones, when you get in queue, there's no breaks.
Absolutely.
And that second call, third call after the first one that just about tore your hair out is really hard to be good at it again. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. We didn't ask, where can I buy your book?
Amazon. Yeah.
If I wanted a second copy.
If you wanted a second copy, Revolutionizing Customer Experience, you can find it on Amazon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there plans for more books?
Chad and I have talked about it, but we're both leading really busy schedules right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, but we cut probably 700 pages from the original because we're getting too deep. It's a very interesting process writing a book. I don't know if either of you have
I don't think
gone through it. What do they call it? Imposter syndrome, I think you struggle with quite a bit.
We had an episode about imposter syndrome. Our president, Becky, talks a lot about that with CC Women in the panels around here too.
Yeah, it's real.
It's real. It's real.
And I don't know. We definitely have the material for it.
And you're going on a few other podcasts, it sounds like?
Yes, we've got a few more coming up in the next 3 weeks. So yes, we'll be posting those as well as these. And I really appreciate the time.
Do you have any questions for us?
Let me see. So from a customer experience, what trends do you guys see? Like, what are you seeing in the market? Are you seeing AI take everything over, or what are you?
Everyone is talking about it. In fact, a lot of people are always sick of it, honestly. There's someone, we talked to a great customer yesterday, and he's like, I'm so sick of hearing about Gen AI, even though everyone knows it's got to be a part of it. So I think that's one thing. And it'd be interesting to hear your perspective. I've been in sales about 5 years for us. I've been in the business 12 plus years. 5 years ago, I lost a lot of sales I'm going to go build it myself. And we build and manage for our clients. I've seen a big trend in coming back to going, AI is moving too fast. I can't support staff. I can't find speech scientists or whoever on piece. I'm going to go buy it again. So for us, it's been exciting, been busy.
Yeah.
But that has been an interesting trend in the last 18 months that I've seen personally. From a technology perspective, I kind of touched on it. I see a lot more on the employee agent side of the house because I think that Gen AI cases really fit well internally to start with because the risk is lower if it's broken or tells you to put glue on your pizza, which I saw the other day as an AI response. The agents will go, I'm not telling the person that. You have that capability to do it. But have you seen build versus buy change? I'm curious.
A little bit. I've also seen the increase in consulting, right?
Oh, sure.
So where they want to outsource because to your point, they can't find skilled, talented work anymore. So we're seeing a lot of that, and it's funny you brought up speech scientists because it's probably the call that I get the most for.
Mm-hmm.
And
Prompt engineering and speech scientists are.
Absolutely.
It's not a. I don't know. Is it a big industry? I mean, we've had our own for years because of nuance and speech that we used to do for a long time. But is it a big? I don't know of a lot of people that do it.
I think where we're seeing it come more into play is because people are rewriting their IVRs right now to become more customer centric, right, and conversational, and so the need for speech scientists is increasing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. The internal use cases coming up. I love that EX is more top of mind, and then I work with financial industry quite a bit, and just a big concern for security and fraud. It always is, but I feel like it's clicked up a couple notches with technologies coming, getting better on the fraud side. But then we're having to respond how to fight that. So that's something that I hear a lot about, is how are we developing technologies to help those better speech bots and better fraudster technology that I hear a lot about.
Being in the financial sector, have you seen any of the adversity to going to the cloud? Like, I know we still have a couple of customers that are scared to move to the cloud.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there are portions of their business that they like to keep, but I feel like, they are being pushed.
Yeah.
So I think that they're carving out maybe like select things that they need to just really hang on to. I also get some customers that are taking additional steps like past PCI because they just want to ensure that, I don't know if they're just nervous that PCI is going to change. Like, we have 4.0 coming up here soon, but I feel like some of the bigger financial industries are trying to like double down on more than just PCI. But yeah,
like
definitely
FedRAMP and that kind of, absolutely. Let me ask you guys, the event last night was great that you sponsored, so thank you so much for including us there. Prospecting for you guys here too, is that like, how many conferences do you guys go to a year?
You know what? I go to a lot. But I think I love CCW. It's a different event in this one compared to the other ones we go to throughout the year. We probably go, depends on the marketing budget. Please bring more money to the marketing team, by the way. I found a lot of value in smaller events in the last few years. But CCW is the biggest event in our business. Yeah. There's some other ones that some of the vendors are doing that are kind of specific to their customers, but I don't know, 10 plus a year, I'm guessing at this point. Yeah. And then we've got a lot of local stuff that we're doing on our own too. So we'll have some satellite sites, but CCW for me is it is prospecting. It's showing off new tech that we've done with people we've talked to for years that come to these events. It's a lot of networking. Like, we met you this week, which was awesome. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's a little different for me. So I run or manage some of our larger accounts. And so our partners are here. We had some of them at the dinner last night. And so it's just being able to spend some time with them talking about our solution and what's coming. And some of them are on our customer advisory board, so they get a sneak peek into what's coming. And that's been really good. So we get some long-term planning. But then what I really like is for them to walk the floor and see things and then come back and say, hey, I saw this thing. One, is it legit? Two, why aren't you doing it? Or can you do it? Those are my favorite customers. Customers that come to me and say, hey, I want to do this. Do you do it? If not, why not? And push us. Those are my favorite customers. The ones that find the things we can do and ask, can we work on this together? And then that makes them better, makes us better, and it's great.
Absolutely. I love the concept of the CAD too, and I think more companies should do it that don't. But closing that feedback loop, right? Or getting that feedback loop and then actually doing something about it. I had a customer one time and so proud, right? Oh yeah, we do customer surveys all the time and we have this list of stuff and we do it every quarter. And as we started reading through them, the feedback was, yeah, we we tell you what we want, but nothing's changing. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
filling this out anymore, right? So I think it's great when there's actually action
Yeah.
behind it, right? Yeah, and getting that.
Yeah, I love a customer advisory board. We're lucky that some really strong partners found time to join, and it's going to be great. I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
That's great.
Maybe the last question. We always ask our customers kind of a simple theme. We ask if you can explain to us in detail like a good customer experience or a bad customer experience. We've had them all, so we'd love to hear if you have one.
Yeah.
Sure. I actually have a good customer experience with American Airlines, which might be rare, just from what I've been reading online lately. We were going to the Derby at the beginning of May, and of course I had my hat box, and as I'm going through check-in, I made sure, like, am I going to get it in? Because it was just a little bit too big, right, for the carry-on. And the front gate man, he's like, absolutely, ma'am, it's Derby weekend. There's going to be a lot of boxes. We know this. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we go to board the plane, and the flight attendant or the gate check lady is, no, ma'am, you can't take that box. It's too big. And okay, whatever, right? Like, there's no sense fighting about stuff like that. So I was traveling with my business partner. I put on one of my hats. She put on the other one, and we walk on the plane, and our flight attendant's like, why are you wearing your hats, right? And we said, well, they took our box. And she just looked, and she's like, what seats are you in? And so we went to our seats, and 3 minutes later, she came back, and she gave me a wave up there and had the box, and we were able to put hats in, and she stowed it away. And yeah, so that was excellent, turned a great situation, or what could have been a bad situation into a great situation.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The question is, did you win any money on the Derby?
Actually, I did.
Not
on the Derby race, but the
side
race
bets?
The race before, I think it was. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Absolutely. It was a great experience.
Well, American Airlines has been on an example of good CX for us in the past. So it's good to see that they're keeping that stuff in mind.
Yeah.
I live in Charlotte. It's probably their second biggest hub. So it's like I fly American Airlines almost exclusively because of just availability. But that is a good one.
Yeah.
We had a similar situation. I haven't said this, but when my wife and I got married, we flew from Austin, Texas to Charlotte, and she had her wedding dress, and they wanted her to check it. And there was the one agent that understood. She's like, no, you're not gonna check this.
Yeah.
And the same thing, like they walked in, no, you can't put this, and the lady's like, I got it, and she put it with her bags.
Yeah.
And it was cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
The airlines get a bad rap, but there are a lot of great stories that you hear often like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, you got to think, just like everybody, when you get that bad service, there's probably something else going on in that day, right? Like, and it's not about you or whatever. It's just having that empathy and that understanding for whatever that person's going through.
Something that we've been preaching a lot on this is that sometimes a good customer experience is recognizing that you've messed up and addressing it, apologizing, and then fixing it. So things don't need to be perfect. You can own up to a mistake. It's about how you react to it that might make it an even better experience for your customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gina, before we wrap, is there anything else you'd like to ask us, tell us? Anything else going on besides your amazing book?
Amazing book and work and play? No, I think that's it.
If you have consulting requests, if you're looking for a project management team, Gina's team is very much reachable. We'll make sure we post that. David, anything else from you?
Thanks for being here with us.
Thank
Really
you
appreciate
so much
it.
for having me. Yeah.
More podcasts on mosaics.com/podcast. Go buy 5 copies of the book and invite Gina to your podcast too. She's amazing, and thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
One take,
and you were fantastic.
You fit right in because you also use your hands a lot.
Yeah, we
most
do
of
a
our
lot
comments are you guys point at each other.
And you have these weird hand moments.
Oh, that's awesome.